Thanks, Natasha, and morning, everyone. You're all looking very perky and very glamorous. I feel underdressed, and it's very nice to see all. I can just about. Oh, yeah, you can see people waving on the gallery. It's not a lie. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, so I'm Director of Water Transformation for the Environment Agency, and that I'm talking about source to sea because, that's my job. How does the Environment Agency in the future fulfill its monitoring, planning, regulatory roles to protect and enhance the whole water system? So it really is about water transformation, and it's a big gig. And I really want to talk about this bit of it because I think this is the bit that gets talked about least. So I'm really pleased to be here. And I'm also going to unapologetically, but with a purpose, reminisce. On the left-hand side here is Blackpool in 1991. Blackpool 2016 on the right-hand side, pretty much as it looks today. I took the first set of bathing water samples for the new Bathing Water Directive in 1991 at Blackpool, and this is what it looked like. All day, every day, not when there was an incident, not when something had gone wrong, but Blackpool Beach was running with raw sewage every day, and now it's not. And many of you will say, oh, but there's something going on this year and water quality wasn't so great. That's because something went wrong. And actually what's happened is that for 30 years, we have made improvements through planning and regulation and talking to each other at places like this, and we need to not forget it. So what I'm going to talk about is just making sure that we learn from what we've done in the past so that we tackle those challenges for the future. And to do that will take all of us. There's still pressures, we know there is. There's pressures from rising sea levels, plastics, OSPAR coming up. Let's think about the things that are going on in terms of global use of chemicals and the impact of those on the water environment. People don't understand that drains go in the water, and everybody's talking about combined sewer overflows, but what about those separate drainage systems that people are using to dispose of their waste? So much to do, and we all know that climate will make that very much harder, so it just adds to our existing pressures and brings some of its own. But there's real cause for optimism at the moment, and I'm an optimistic person, but there is genuine cause for optimism because people's connection to this coastal environment is greater than it's ever been. There's an unprecedented opportunity here to capitalise on that. So, what was it, 270 million recreational visits to the English coast each year? These people are going, they're using water in different ways. They're not just on those family beaches in the summer, are they? We're all talking about kayaks and paddleboards and things like that. People are under the water all year round. And what we're finding is they're not just interested in buckets and spades, they're interested in the environment. That's such an opportunity. It's a gift for us. And what we're told is the received wisdom is that environment drops off people's agenda when times are hard. That's what we think we know, but it's not true at the moment, is it? And I can tell you, as a Director of Water for the Environment Agency, I see people's interest in the water environment and what we ought to do about it in my inbox every day, hundreds of times. We need to make something of that. So how we're doing? Buckets and spades holidays are broadly okay, although the press might tell us something different. But two examples here. This is in theory, seagrass bed really affected on the left-hand side by boat traffic. Salt marsh in Poole Harbour there eroding away. We need it. We need it for biodiversity. We need it for flood risk. We need it for our future resilience. So loads to do. Loads done. You can see these slides far, far bigger than I can, and maybe can see the detail in a way that I cannot because I haven't brought either of my pairs of glasses. I can't see close to me, and I can't see far away. Tends to reduce the stress of big gatherings when that's the case. But, it's a simple story, isn't it? Where we regulate and where we invest, we get a result. The bathing water regulations came in 1991. We started monitoring the quality of our family beaches. I know it's not everywhere. That monitoring drove regulation of the water industry, higher standards for the water industry, also has driven 30 years' worth of investment. And it's not perfect, goodness me, storm overflows, I have to mention them. It's not perfect, it's not right, but that investment is there. And that triple track, using the evidence, regulating, giving a reason to invest, that everybody can agree with is such a massive step forward, and we should just remember that we've done that. And in places like Blackpool, this is a really inclusive process. Everybody points a finger at the water industry, quite rightly. They've got a lot of work to do. But, you know, on any of our coastlines, it's never just one thing. And at a place like Blackpool, it's a combination of wastewater treatment, storm overflows, sheep grazing in the Fylde estuary, seagulls, you know, promenade management. All of those things have to be right to get our water as clean as we need it to be. And to do that requires not just the water industry, not just the Environment Agency, but all the businesses who've got an interest in that coast and all the communities who've got an interest in that coast. And for me, again, that's, you know, it's inclusive. We have to do it if we're going to make the improvements that we want to make. Another example of not all bad. Sneak in a freshwater example in here. This is a complicated slide. This is CEH's work. They released it in October 23, and this is a 30-year time horizon of invertebrates in English rivers. And what it shows, they've got a much nicer slide, which has just got one line in it, but it shows that even that red line is waters that are very, very polluted by sewage. The green line is waters that are very, very clean. It shows that across our waters, no matter where there's water quality issues, diversity and numbers of invertebrates are going up. You know, so there's 1,500 monitoring sites here. Things are getting better, and you can see massive improvements. And again, that's down to investment. You can also see, and it's a different presentation that I don't have time for, that improvement starting to tail off, and that means we need to think of something new. Why is that happening? You know, my hypothesis might be that all of that water is getting a bit warmer, and climate change is creating issues with the resilience of our ecology that we need to address. But that's only a hypothesis. Another one, and I really won't go through this. This is metals, phosphorus, nitrogen. These are polluting loads in England. You'll see that the downward trend for most of them is very striking. That again is regulation, control of substances going into our waters, largely through wastewater. An element of it is changing patterns of land use, so less heavy industry, for example, and all of those polluting loads are coming down. The obvious exception is bottom right, that's nitrogen. Notoriously difficult to tackle, and again, that's a conference in itself. This is Cobmarsh Island. This is close to Harwich. This is fab, I absolutely love it. This is reuse of dredged sediment, and that lovely little artificial reef there, I would call it. I'm sure it's the wrong word for it. Somebody in here will correct me. Is beneficial use. You know, it provides habitat, it helps us to manage flood risk. It's adapting to what is becoming an even busier coast. You know, so if heavy industry inland is declining, we can see that free ports are putting more pressure on our coastal environment. They're also encouraging other kinds of development, which is largely a good thing. But we can see, right, I've talked about the potential impact of climate change. Climate adaptation will bring with it, you know, nuclear new build, carbon capture and storage. All of those will have an impact on the coast. This example here at Cobmarsh is an example of getting ahead of that game and thinking about how we benefit from the changes that are happening at the coast. So I absolutely love this slide. It's a nice day as well, and it feels like we haven't seen many of those, isn't it? It's very nice to see. Very nice to see blue sea and blue skies. So, just a little bit more then on how we're doing. You'll probably know all of these places. I've only been to one of them, Medmerry, Sturt in Somerset, Greetham, all places where we've actively intervened to get ahead, to improve our climate resilience, to improve our habitats. Again, this is driven by regulation. This is habitats regulations requiring compensatory habitat. They're small places, but they're really significant. If you've ever been to any of them, they're really inspiring places to visit, aren't they? You know, the wildlife, the opportunity, the fact that communities have been consulted and are going with something which is new and different and perhaps a little bit uncertain. Brilliant, brilliant news. And we know that that's having an impact. You know, we know that, you know, seagrass in the Thames estuary here is 50% higher than it was a few years ago. We know that all of the improvements in water quality and improvements in habitat on the Thames mean that there's 100 species of fish in the Thames. When I started my career, I used to use a slide which showed the Thames in the 1950s with no invertebrates and no fish and no oxygen. Isn't that remarkable? Absolutely remarkable. But it's not enough. The tiny, tiny, tiny improvements in terms of coastal habitat. So, you know, 7% increase in salt marsh over 10 years. It's lovely where you see it, but it's not enough. So, what we're doing, this is Rememory, and did I pronounce it right, Eve? Yes. Oh, I've been practicing it. I got up at 5 o'clock this morning, and I'm practicing. You know, so restoring meadow, marsh and reef, you know, Rememory. That's not just about protecting what we've got. It's about starting to restore our marine and estuarine environments. It's really quite hard to get that sort of public money investment in anything at the moment with the pressures that there are on the public purse. So it's just brilliant that we can say that we're putting in a new programme office. The Environment Agency and DEFRA are investing in a programme office to give us more coordination and more support and get more money into Rememory. Absolutely brilliant news, and it just shows that this noise about the water environment and the work that you do is starting to have some traction. So really, really pleased with that. And there's lots more coastal and estuarine measures in river basin management plans. So the first time there's 30 measures that will actually start to create some traction in terms of how we make some improvements in our marine environment. And it's up there. It hasn't disappeared behind rivers as it generally does. So it's really, really good news. And then just 3 points to close, and that's about how we collaborate across the water network, you know, how we invest in it and how we use our networks. So no organisation can deal with this alone. And it's very, very easy to look at another organisation and say, what are they doing? My favourite example was Today programme last week. Was it last week or the week before? The Today programme was something about water quality, and the person who was being interviewed saying, yeah, this is really terrible agricultural pollution, I blame South West Water. We've got to think about what we do together. How do we, you know, the public authorities, businesses, civil sector, how do we actually make some difference here? Those 30 measures in the river basin management plans require us to collaborate. And my second point, we need to do it catchment to coast. We're working on a model which is all about source to sea, you know, the interconnectedness of our water environment. You'll hear more from us soon about what we think this looks like. I think where I'd like to see the model develop a little bit is to put some people in it, because actually, you know, we can't, this model has got people in it. And I think all of us have been working in a world where we've made quite a distinction between what people need and what wildlife needs, you know, health and environment, all of those things. To actually do what we need to do, we need to bring them all together, don't we? And we need some money. So I know Mike Nelson talked yesterday about natural capital ecosystem assessment. We need to get some more money into that fund. There's quite a lot of money there for evidence, and we absolutely need to know that that's coming and be ready to make the best of that evidence to start to influence future action and future investment. And finally, this is, can you tell that I'm from Lancashire? This is Morecambe Bay, and you know, and so in my childhood, the most unloved bit of the Lancashire coast, and the most unknown, I think, around our English coast. I can't think of anywhere that's less talked about and more amazing. Absolutely fabulous photograph. I put it here because I think my closing thought is, over the past 30 years that I've seen of my career, and I could go back and back and back and back and back, things have changed and things have happened when there's been public interest, a public noise, an outcry about something not being right. And you can look all the way back back to the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, and the Thames is a great example of where it's taken public outcry to result in investment and challenge and new thinking and new ways of doing things. And that moment's again, it's right now. It's right now. So I think there's, what we've learned is that we can do it when we put our mind to it. And so I'm really optimistic. Thank you.